Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here with you today. I want to talk to you about something that can change your life dramatically. It's not a secret formula or a magic pill. It's something far more powerful, yet deceptively simple: developing good habits. Now, you might be thinking, Jim, I've heard about habits before. What's the big deal? Well, let me tell you, habits are the building blocks of our lives. They shape our days, our weeks, our years, and ultimately our death. The habits you form today will determine the person you become tomorrow. You see, life doesn't just happen to us. We happen to life. And how we happen to life is largely determined by our habits. Good habits are the foundation of success in every area of our lives: our health, our relationships, our careers, our finances. They're the small, consistent actions that compound over time to create extraordinary results. But here's the catch: good habits don't just happen. We have to force ourselves to develop them, and that's what I want to talk to you about today: how to force yourself to develop good habits. Now, when I say force, I don't mean you should be harsh or unkind to yourself. What I mean is that you need to be intentional, disciplined, and committed. You need to make a conscious decision to change your behavior and stick to it, even when it's not easy or convenient. Let's start with a fundamental truth. You are the product of your habits. You'll produce poor results. If you have good habits, you'll produce good results. It's as simple as that. The question is, what kind of results do you want in your life? Imagine for a moment that you're a farmer. Every day, you have a choice about what to plant in your field. You can plant weeds, or you can plant crops. Now, no farmer in their right mind would deliberately plant weeds, right? But that's exactly what we do when we allow poor habits to take root in our lives. Every time you hit the snooze button instead of getting up early, you're planting a weed. Every time you reach for junk food instead of a healthy meal, you're planting a weed. Every time you procrastinate instead of taking action on your goals, you're planting a weed. But here's the good news. Just as you can choose to plant weeds, you can also choose to plant crops. You can choose to develop habits that nourish you, that help you grow, that move you closer to your goals. So how do we do this? How do we force ourselves to develop good habits? Well, it starts with understanding the anatomy of a habit. Every habit, whether good or bad, consists of three parts: a cue, a routine, and a reward. The cue is the trigger that initiates the behavior. It could be a time of day, a certain place, an emotional state, or the presence of certain people. The routine is the behavior itself, what you actually do. And the reward is the benefits you get from the behavior, which reinforces the habit. Understanding the structure is crucial because it allows us to intervene at any point in the cycle. We can change the cue, alter the routine, or find a different reward. This is how we begin to force ourselves to develop good habits. Let's take a common example. Many people want to develop the habit of exercising regularly. The cue might be waking up in the morning. The routine would be going for a run or hitting the gym. And the reward might be the endorphin rush you get after a good workout. But here's where many people go wrong. They focus solely on the routine, the exercise itself, and ignore the cue and the reward. They try to force themselves to exercise through sheer willpower. And when that fails, as it often does, they give up. Instead, what if we approached it differently? What if we set out our workout clothes the night before, so that seeing them first thing in the morning becomes our cue? What if we found a workout buddy so that the social interaction becomes part of our reward? What if we treated ourselves to a healthy smoothie after each workout, creating an additional reward? You see, by understanding and manipulating all parts of the habit loop, we can make it easier to force ourselves to develop good habits. We're not relying solely on willpower. We're setting ourselves up for success. Now let's talk about the power of small beginnings. Many people fail to develop good habits because they try to do too much too soon. They decide they're going to completely overhaul their lives overnight. And when they inevitably fall short, but that's not how lasting change happens. Lasting change happens slowly, incrementally, one small habit at a time. It's not about making radical changes. It's about making small changes consistently over time. Let me give you an example. Say you want to develop the habit of reading more. Don't start by trying to read a book a week. Start by reading just 1 page a day. That's it. 1 page. It might not seem like much, but here's what happens. That 1 page a day becomes 365 pages in a year. That's 1 or 2 good books. More importantly, by starting small, you're making the habit easy to maintain. You're building momentum. You're proving to yourself that you can do it. And over time, that 1 page might become 2 pages, then 5, then a chapter. Before you know it, you're reading regularly without even thinking about it. This principle applies to any habit you want to develop. Want to start meditating? Begin with just 1 minute a day. Want to eat healthier? Start by adding 1 vegetable to your dinner each night. Want to save more money? Start by putting aside just $1 a day. The key is consistency. It's better to do a little bit every day than to do a lot once in a while. Remember, we're trying to develop habits here, not achieve overnight transformations. Now, let's talk about the importance of your environment in developing good habits. Your environment has a profound impact on your behavior. It can either support your good habits or sabotage them. Think about it. If you're trying to eat healthier, but your kitchen is stocked with junk food, you're making it much harder on yourself. If you're trying to be more productive, but your workspace is cluttered and disorganized, you're setting yourself up for failure. So part of forcing yourself to develop good habits is creating an environment that supports those habits. This might mean rearranging your physical space. It might mean changing the people you spend time with. It might mean altering your daily routine. If you want to read more, keep books visible and easily accessible in your home. If you want to exercise more, lay out your workout clothes the night before. If you want to eat healthier, stock your kitchen with nutritious foods and get rid of the junk. Remember, willpower is a finite resource. By creating an environment that supports your good habits, you're reducing the amount of willpower you need to expend. You're making it easier to do the right thing. Now let's address a crucial point. Developing good habits isn't always fun or easy. In fact, it's often uncomfortable, especially at first. But here's a fundamental truth. All growth happens outside of your comfort zone. If you want to force yourself to develop good habits, you need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. You need to embrace the discomfort as a sign of growth, as evidence that you're making progress. Think about it. The first time you go to the gym after a long break, it's uncomfortable. Your muscles ache, you're out of breath, you feel awkward. But if you push through that discomfort, if you keep showing up day after day, it gets easier. The discomfort fades, and you start to enjoy the process. The same is true for any habit you're trying to develop. Whether it's waking up early, eating healthier, saving money, or learning a new skill, there will be discomfort at first. But if you can push through that initial discomfort, if you can keep showing up consistently, you'll start to see results. And those results will motivate you to keep going. So instead of trying to avoid discomfort, learn to see it as a positive sign. When you feel that resistance, when you feel that urge to give up or go back to your old ways, recognize it as an opportunity for growth. Embrace it. Push through it. Because on the other side of that discomfort is the person you want to become. Now let's talk about the power of accountability in developing good habits. You see, it's one thing to make a commitment to yourself. It's another thing entirely to make that commitment public, to have others holding you accountable. When you keep your goals and your habits private, it's easy to let yourself off the hook. It's easy to make excuses, to procrastinate, to give up when things get tough. But when you share your goals with others, when you have people checking in on your progress, it becomes much harder to slack off. This is why support groups are so effective for people trying to overcome addictions or lose weight. It's why having a workout buddy can dramatically increase your chances of sticking to an exercise routine. It's why many successful people have mentors or coaches. So if you're serious about forcing yourself to develop good habits, find ways to build accountability into your life. Tell your friends and family about the habits you're trying to develop. Join a group of like-minded individuals who are working towards similar goals. Find a mentor or a coach who can guide you and hold you accountable. You might even consider making a public commitment. In this age of social media, it's easier than ever to share your goals and your progress with a wider audience. Now, I'm not saying you need to broadcast every detail of your life online, but there's power in making a public declaration of your intention. Remember, the goal isn't to seek approval or validation from others. The goal is to create external pressure that will help you stay on track when your internal motivation wavers. Because let's face it, there will be days when you don't feel like showing up, when you want to fall back into your old habits. Having that external accountability can be the difference between giving up and pushing through. Now let's talk about the importance of tracking your progress. You see, when you're trying to force yourself to develop good habits, it's easy to lose sight of how far you've come. Our brains are wired to focus on the negative, on what we haven't achieved yet, rather than on the progress we've made. That's why it's crucial to find ways to measure and track your progress. It doesn't have to be complicated. It could be as simple as marking an X on a calendar for each day you complete your new habit. It could be keeping a journal where you record your thoughts and experiences. It could be using an app to track your workouts or your meditation sessions. The key is to have some tangible way of seeing your progress over time. Because when you can see how far you've come, it becomes a powerful motivator to keep going. It helps you push through those tough days when you don't feel like showing up. Plus, tracking your progress allows you to identify patterns and make adjustments as needed. Maybe you notice that you're more likely to skip your workout on Mondays. Armed with that information, you can come up with strategies to overcome that specific challenge. Remember, what gets measured gets managed. By tracking your progress, you're not just motivating yourself. You're also gathering valuable data that can help you refine your approach and become even more effective at developing good habits. Now, let's address a crucial point: the power of forgiveness in developing good habits. You see, when we're trying to force ourselves to develop new habits, we often adopt an all-or-nothing mentality. We think that if we slip up once, if we miss a day or make a mistake, we've failed completely. But that's not how it works. Developing good habits is not about perfection. It's about consistency. It's about what you do most of the time, not what you... So when you inevitably have a slip up, and you will, because you're human, the key is to forgive yourself and get back on track as quickly as possible. Don't use one mistake as an excuse to give up entirely. Don't let one bad day turn into a bad week or a bad month. Instead, practice self-compassion. Recognize that forming new habits is challenging and that setbacks are a normal part of the process. Learn from your mistakes, make adjustments if necessary, and then get right back to your good habits. Remember, it's not the occasional slip-up that determines your success. It's how you respond to that slip-up. Do you use it as an excuse to give up, or do you use it as an opportunity to recommit to your goals? Now, let's talk about the power of celebration in developing good habits. Too often, we focus solely on the end goal, on where we want to be, and we forget to celebrate the progress we're making along the way. But here's the thing. Your brain doesn't know the difference between a small win and a big win. Every time you complete your new habit, every time you make a good choice, your brain releases dopamine, the feel-good chemical that reinforces behavior. So by celebrating your small wins, you're actually training your brain to enjoy the process of developing good habits. You're creating positive associations that make it easier to stick with your new behaviors. This doesn't mean you need to throw a party every time you go for a run or eat a healthy meal. But it does mean taking a moment to acknowledge your efforts, to pat yourself on the back, to feel good about the choices you're making. Maybe it's as simple as saying, "Good job," to yourself in the mirror. Maybe it's treating yourself to a small reward after a week of consistent effort. Maybe it's sharing your progress with a supportive friend or family member. The key is to find ways to make the process of developing good habits enjoyable, because the more you enjoy it, the more likely you are to stick with it long term. Now, let's address a common misconception about developing good habits. The idea that it's all about willpower. Many people believe that if they just had more willpower, they'd be able to force themselves to develop any habit they want. But here's the truth. Willpower is a limited resource. It's like a muscle that gets tired with use. If you rely solely on willpower to develop good habits, you're setting yourself up for failure. Instead of relying on willpower, the key is to create systems that make it easier to do the right thing. This goes back to what we talked about earlier, setting up your environment for success, starting small, building accountability, tracking your progress. By creating these systems, you're reducing the amount of willpower you need to expend. You're making your good habits the path of least resistance. For example, if you want to develop the habit of eating healthier, don't rely on willpower to resist junk food. Instead, create a system. Clean out your pantry. Stock your fridge with healthy options. Meal prep on Sundays. Find healthy recipes you enjoy. If you want to develop the habit of exercising regularly, don't rely on willpower to drag yourself to the gym every day. Create a system. Lay out your workout clothes the night before. Schedule your workouts like important appointments. Find a workout buddy. Choose forms of exercise you actually enjoy. Remember, the goal is to make your good habits automatic, to reach the point where you don't have to think about them or force yourself to do them. And that happens not through sheer force of will, but through creating supportive systems and environments. Now, let's talk about the importance of patience in developing good habits. In our fast-paced, instant gratification world, we often expect immediate results. We want to see dramatic changes overnight. But that's not how habits work. Habits are formed slowly through consistent repetition over time. It's not about making big changes quickly. It's about making small changes consistently. There's a popular notion that it takes 21 days to form a new habit. But the reality is, it can take much longer, anywhere from 18 to 254 days, according to research. The exact time depends on the person and the habit. So if you're trying to force yourself to develop good habits, you need to be patient. You need to be willing to put in the work day after day, even when you're not seeing immediate results. Think of it like planting a garden. When you plant seeds, you don't see results right away. You have to water the soil, provide sunlight, and wait. It might seem like nothing's happening for weeks, but under the surface, those seeds are growing roots, gathering strength. And then, one day, you see a tiny sprout breaking through the soil. From that point on, growth becomes more visible, more rapid. But it all depends on that initial period of invisible growth. The same is true for habits. When you start a new habit, you might not see immediate changes. But under the surface, neural pathways are forming in your brain. Your body and mind are adapting. And if you stay consistent, if you keep showing up day after day, eventually you'll start to see results. So don't get discouraged if you don't see immediate changes. Trust the process. Have faith in the power of small, consistent actions over time, because that's where the real magic happens. Now, let's talk about the power of identity in developing good habits. You see, the most effective way to change your habits is to focus not on what you want to do, but on who you want to become. Instead of saying, I want to exercise more, say, I want to become a healthy, active person. Instead of saying, I want to save more money, say, I want to become financially responsible. Why does this matter? Because when you tie your habits to your identity, you're no longer just trying to force yourself to do something. You're becoming the kind of person who naturally does those things. Think about it. If you see yourself as a healthy, active person, going for a run or eating a nutritious meal isn't something you have to force yourself to do. It's just part of who you are. If you see yourself as a financially responsible person, Saving money and making wise financial decisions becomes second nature. This shift in identity is powerful because it changes the question from what do I want to achieve to who do I want to become. And when you focus on becoming rather than achieving, you're more likely to stick with your habits long term. You're not just forcing yourself to do something. You're aligning your actions with your vision of yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, developing good habits is not easy. It requires effort, consistency, and patience. But it's one of the most powerful things you can do to improve your life. Remember, you are the product of your habits. By forcing yourself to develop good habits, you're not just changing your behavior. You're changing your life. You're becoming the person you want to be, one small action at a time. So I challenge you. Choose one habit you want to develop. Start small. Set up your environment for success. Find ways to hold yourself accountable. Track your progress. Celebrate your wins. Be patient with yourself. And most importantly, tie that habit to your identity. Don't just do it. Become it. Because when you do that, when you force yourself to develop good habits consistently over time, there's no limit to what you can achieve. Thank you.